I've found, like, in my experience, moving up in the music industry is just all about knowing the right people. Like, you know someone who knows someone, and then it just goes from there. Was that how you got the job with Paul?
I think essentially, yeah. Me and Mike did a charity show which happened at the Royal Albert Hall
Mm-hmm.
back in, I think, like 2014, maybe
Somewhere around
2015.
there, yeah.
So we went and did that, and we met the MD for that show was Paul Wickens, who's Paul McCartney's keyboard player, and so we met him at that occasion. But it was a huge event with a whole orchestra as well, and didn't really, have much to, didn't speak to Paul much after that. But then, yeah, 2018, around May 2018, we hear from him saying, "Need to talk to you about something." So I think that's where the initial meetup came. But then I think there was also this connection with Lippo, where me and Mike had studied, which was the school that Paul McCartney had set up, which was another thing that he could speak to Paul about and be like, "Well, I know these guys," and then it sort of went from there, and some meetings and what have you after that, and before we know it, we're flying out to New York for rehearsals, and then to Canada. That was the first place we gigged with him.
Right. And I have to imagine that the first time you meet Paul, it's got to be a bit freaky, just because he's like, it's Paul McCartney, Do you remember, like, the first meeting or the first rehearsal with him?
Well, Paul's and myself's first encounter of him was actually receiving our degrees. And mine didn't go quite as planned as I thought. In a fluster for the photograph where you're supposed to be posing and giving the scroll and stuff, I ended up pulling his finger. Yeah, it's as weird as it sounds. So that was my first encounter. But yeah, I think when we got out there to New York, first professional encounter, he was just as relaxed as anybody, really, as a person. It was us three that were like, behave yourself and don't, stay in lane. But
I guess it's like when you join any kind of new, and if you enter any other musical world, it's always nerve-wracking, especially one that a lot of the people involved with Paul McCartney have been working with him for so long, and you're stepping into that world. It's a bit terrifying, really, because you're very much the new guys who no one, a lot of people didn't know a lot about. So, you have to, yeah, like Mike says, be on your best behavior.
Yeah, and we'd heard a lot about how long. All we'd sort of heard was about how long everyone else had been there before we met up with them, and how long everyone had done it from, and that goes throughout the whole camp. Like it really is a touring family, and lots of people have been there for years, and people's children are even started to work for the camp. It really is a family environment, and so to have three new guys come into that I feel like was a bit strange for them, and then obviously for us. When you get to when you're about to go and play for Paul McCartney, and also at that point you can't tell anyone that you're going to play for Paul McCartney. You can't even tell your family where you're going. It was all a little bit CIA, all a little bit, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Which was new because all the other gigs I'd done before I could tell people. So it was a bit different, wasn't it, boys?
Mm.
And then unfortunately on the flight over to New York, I managed to get some sort of illness, And so I was terrified I was going to make everybody sick as well, which is not a good look. So I was trying not to cough and splutter over everybody.